Hello ladies, gentlemen, boys, girls, innies, outies and in-betweeners. My name's Dan and welcome back to another PAP Reports. Today is Monday, April the 6th, 2020, and today we're starting with something that we've pretty much come to expect from many police constables. Former Somerset PC Mark Stickley is facing a misconduct hearing today, which is being held over Skype due to coronavirus fears and recommendations. Stickley allegedly made inappropriate, unprofessional or disrespectful comments to a potential victim of domestic abuse, failed to keep an open mind about what he was being told and prejudged the situation. He is said to have recorded that her ex-partner had not been violent when that was either wrong or contrary to what he was told. A notice for Mr. Stickley's misconduct hearing said his alleged behaviour would damage the relationship of trust and confidence between the police and the public, and could amount to gross misconduct. That hearing's happening today, and I will update you as and when the outcome becomes available. Now on with another misconduct hearing outcome against South Tyneside Inspector Steve Appleton. The misconduct hearing heard claims that Northumbria Police Inspector Steve Appleton frequently accessed force records on behalf of a mysterious contact referred to only as Mr. X. Among the details of the alleged offences, the hearing, which took place behind closed doors, was told how the inspector made 495 calls or texts to Mr. X's mobile phone and met him in person on at least 6 occasions over several years. When one of Mr. X's associates was accused of assault, the misconduct panel was told that Inspector Appleton spoke with the wanted man directly and passed on confidential policing information to him. When we became aware of concerns relating to former officer Stephen Appleton, we conducted a thorough investigation, said Superintendent Steve Amari, head of Northumbria Police's Professional Standards Department. After 30 years working for the police, he retired in December 2017, but not before appearing twice before Newcastle Crown Court on separate occasions to face criminal proceedings. In January 2018, a jury failed to reach a verdict, and in March 2019 he was cleared of corrupt, improper exercise of police powers and privileges, following a second trial. Superintendent Steve Amari, head of Northumberland's Professional Standards Department, said, despite the fact he is no longer employed by the force, it was important and right that we pursued formal disciplinary proceedings. Now, although no actual punishment was dished out, Appleton was placed on the College of Policing's barred list. I can see how he would have been devastated by that, seeing as he retired over 2 years ago. Next we head over to Kent, where disco lights and music filled the streets in the Holborough Lake area as residents tried to lift morale during their lockdown, much like has been seen in the news in Italy and Spain, with music and singing from balconies. Well, as you would expect here in the UK, the police simply love to put a stop to anything that's fun, as 2 police constables arrived at the scene and started shouting to the revellers in the balconies above, warning that if people start being around each other and incidents like this get in the press, then the government could be forced to impose stricter lockdown to curb the spread of coronavirus. The constables added, have fun, have the music going, but just think sensibly with a bit of common sense and we can all do this sort of stuff. When we came in, everyone was on top of each other. We were getting calls about it. All I'm saying is just try to be a bit more sensible. Well, if they're all on their own balconies, then the chances are those on the same balcony live together. There was no suggestion of anyone getting spoken to about social distancing, warnings or fines being issued. Now I have to speak through this video for fair use purposes. As you can see, there is literally one person walking in the street, but everyone else is on their balcony, creating no social distancing issues or breaking any of the government's suggestions. It seems like some neighbours, maybe from another road or even neighbours from the same road, had a problem with the noise and grassed them up. But when the police arrived, they should have been able to see everyone was well apart from one another and then left rather than making threats. I will say that the residents of the street are reported to have seemed pretty appreciative of the police doing their jobs, allegedly applauding them as they walked back to their car and hailing them as legends. I certainly wouldn't be calling them legends for threatening me with stricter lockdown for having some fun. Government officials. We don't often hear about them here on the PAP Reports, but Recently, those who tell us what to do have been ignoring their own advice, from the Scottish Chief Medical Officer to Labour MPs, including Labour MP Tahir Ali, who on Wednesday last week attended 2 funerals in the same day. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not being heartless. People are dying and loved ones are being lost, whether it's from the virus or from other ailments. But we have all been told to adhere to the rules surrounding attendance at funerals, among other things. Tahir Ali said he attended 2 funerals as an observer and said authorities should reduce restrictions as long as mourners adhere to social distancing guidelines. Police were called to the cemetery after up to 100 people were reported to have attended, although there were only 15 when the police arrived. In a series of tweets, West Midlands Police said, following recent media coverage of a large gathering of mourners at a funeral in Birmingham earlier this week, we can confirm that we've spoken to Tahir Ali MP about a suspected breach of coronavirus restrictions. We warned Mr Ali about his behaviour and reminded him of the clear need for everyone to follow the rules surrounding social distancing and the guidelines that have been issued around funerals. New restrictions have been placed on the number of mourners that can attend funerals in order to help stop the spread of COVID-19. We would urge people to check their local authority websites for guidance. It is vital people follow these rules. Police said that when they arrived at the council-run cemetery, officers found approximately 15 people socially distanced in family groups, therefore no action was taken. So folks, if the unthinkable happens or has happened, and I'm truly sorry if it has or does, just remember that providing you go to the funeral and stay distanced from other household members, then the police can't do anything about it, based on the actions of West Midlands Police in this case. After all, just because Ali is an MP, it doesn't make him immune to the same regulations we are having enforced on us. And for those of you who haven't yet heard, Scotland's Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Catherine Coldwood, has resigned after she herself failed to take her own advice to the Scottish nation after she twice visited her second home with her family. Police Scotland's Chief Constable Ian Livingston confirmed that local constables spoke to Dr. Coldwood after she was reported to have driven over an hour from her main family home to the second home they own, before admitting to having visited in the previous week as well. In a complete word salad cocktail, she said, "While there are reasons for what I did, they do not justify it, and they were not legitimate reasons to be out of my home. While I and my family followed the guidance on social distancing at all times, I understand that I did not follow the advice I am giving others, and I am truly sorry for that. What I did was wrong, I'm very sorry, and it will not happen again." Scottish Conservative leader Jackson Carlaw said there cannot be one rule for bosses and another one for everyone else. I mean, it really does help to build trust in the public when those meant to enforce and set examples do the complete opposite. And we're staying in Scotland now, as Police Scotland revealed that last week 144 fixed penalty fines were issued to people allegedly breaking the coronavirus restrictions. Mr Livingstone said officers have had to use their new powers to enforce the restrictions very infrequently. The level of cooperation and support from the public in terms of social distancing has been vastly overwhelming. Everybody is stepping up and doing their duty, he said. The Chief Constable also said that constables were engaging with public and encouraging them to comply with the rules, but where there was absolute refusal, they would take action. Ahead of the weekend, during which we had some great weather, Mr Livingston said he expected people to continue to abide by the restrictions, stating that we must maintain the discipline we've seen so far. It's the key thing to stop the spread of the virus. But the problem is, Ian, are the constables being reasonable? When someone refuses, maybe it's because they have an absolute right to refuse due to not actually breaking the restrictions. We've already seen plenty of people getting fined for not breaking restrictions. Instead, they're being fined due to the constable's interpretations. Justice Secretary Hamza Yousaf said these rules are in place to slow down the spread of COVID-19, which will protect the NHS and save lives. While Police Scotland have powers of enforcement, I expect that these will only be used as a last resort, and that the vast majority of people will use their common sense and play a full part in this countrywide effort. Yes, Yes, Yusuf, I'm sure it will only be used as a last resort. Maybe it's about time people like you started living in the real world and not your protected little bubble. Sandbach Police in Cheshire were under attack on Saturday after they received hundreds of complaints over a Twitter post showing several constables prancing around to the Bee Gees hit Staying Alive. Now, because YouTube is YouTube and the people who own this music want all of the revenue from this video just for this few seconds of footage, I'm having to speak over it so that they don't copyright it. What a pain in the arse. The footage of 4 police constables gyrating in front of marked police cars with their blue lights flashing pulled in a huge amount of criticism from the public, including asking the police if the dance routine is an essential reason for being outdoors. Cheshire Police had been contacted for a comment, but as of yet I don't believe they've responded to the criticism. I just hope they don't use the same PR advisor to write their response. Over the past couple of weeks I've reported on several incidents whereby members of the public have been charged with assault for breathing on police or other people. Now, I've already said before that coughing at people with a potential virus that is spread via respiratory droplets is a bad thing. And I can understand why that would, in the current situation, be classed as an assault. But I've yet to be able to work out why people are being charged with assault for breathing on or at police or other people. I'm not suggesting it's a normal thing to do, or even that it's socially acceptable. But researching this, I've found no evidence that the virus can be spread by breath. Well, on the 3rd of April, a 29-year-old man was charged with assaulting an emergency worker after what has been called a COVID-19 related incident. Police attended an address in Fosdyke following a call at around 2:01 AM and arrested the man on suspicion of breaching the peace. After being taken to custody, the man is alleged to have told the officer that he had COVID-19 before deliberately breathing in the officer's face. He was then arrested for assaulting an emergency worker with his breath and resisting a constable in execution of their duty. The following day, the man appeared at what they're calling a virtual remand court and received 3 months in prison and £122 cost. On the Lincolnshire Police's very own website, they have tagged the report with the reference aggravated assault on emergency worker. Now, this intrigued me, so last week I set about finding some answers. I called Public Health England and the NHS. Both were unable to help me over the phone, so I emailed Public Health England and yesterday I got my response. I'll show you my email first to show you that I'm not trying to twist or hide anything. I emailed the following. Good afternoon. My name is Daniel. I am an independent journalist looking for some information. It has already been determined that C19 can be spread by respiratory droplets from coughs and sneezings, or from touching your mouth and nose and then transferring the virus via touch. But what is unclear is whether or not COVID-19 can be spread on the breath. I did call Public Health England at the end of last week and they told me to contact this email address. I think it's important to know if the virus can be spread on the breath, therefore I'm reaching out to find the answer. Kind regards. The reply I received said, "Hello Daniel, please find below a response to your inquiry. The accepted major routes of transmission of COVID-19 are droplet and contact routes. Currently, there is no conclusive evidence that transmission of infection via exhaled breath is occurring to a significant extent during this pandemic. This is consistent with the World Health Organization's recent statement on the modes of transmission for COVID-19. However, As this is a new disease and as new data emerges from relevant experiments, environmental samplings and epidemiological studies, Public Health England will continue to evaluate routes of transmission and how best to prevent transmission across different settings. Many thanks, Julia. Now, clearly this does not exclude transmission on the breath completely, but I think it's clear that after months of this virus being active and spreading, it would have been a priority to find out its routes of transmissions, including on the breath. Now, this seems to have been done, and with no conclusive evidence of it being transmitted on the breath, I would say it's quite safe to assume that at the moment at least, it's not transferable by breath. Again, let me say I'm not for 1 minute suggesting that people should go around breathing in people's faces, because it is simply socially unacceptable. But is it assault? I don't think it is. And I think that the police are going to courts, that if the police are going to courts and going to start charging people for assault for breathing at them, then they should at least know any of the factors that may prevent that argument. I mean, if you're seen kicking a football, could you be arrested because you could use your foot to kick someone? Of course, there is potential in both extreme examples of that argument, but I thought the courts worked on facts and evidence and not opinions. I may be wrong, but with Public Health England stating no conclusive evidence to suggest that breathing is a transference mechanism, then I will suggest there is no conclusive evidence to charge people with assault. And I think that people who have been charged and sentenced for breathing on people should have their cases looked at. But only the breathing element. I am not for a moment suggesting they should be let off if they have broken any laws, but I do feel what they're calling a COVID-19 related incident is being punished harshly for something that there's no conclusive evidence for. If anything, it should be causing maybe alarm and distress rather than assault. Big thank you to Patreon supporters Motty Lad, Holly, AD, Dave, Ian W, Copwatch UK, Dean J, Carl, President Trump and Danielle, whose support is helping me to continue providing you with this daily content, especially as almost every report contains content that's deemed unsuitable for most advertisers. Anyway, that's all I have for you today. Please like, share, comment and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts, as I know many of you will. And until next time, stay safe, look after each other, film the police and other officials.
Good night, all.
Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. If you like the content and you'd like to help support the channel, you can do so. In the description of every video there are some links to ways that you're able to help support the channel so I can continue putting out content. If you're unable to help us in that way, hit that subscribe button up the top there. If you haven't already, become a subscriber. That is support enough. Share the videos, comment, like, it all helps. If you're looking for something else to watch, up top there is my latest video. Down the bottom there is a video that YouTube recommends for you.